Today on Locked On Rockies, a couple of concerning storylines as we continue to go through the spring. Just some stuff that we've seen before, and we know it can be a problem going forward. And the Rockies, well, at least so far in spring, they're sticking to their word.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 28th day of February in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot because that's what we do around here each and every day. Let's talk Rockies baseball right here, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. And Tracy says, I'm not real thrilled with the possibility of Jaden Hill making the team in the bullpen. This has been a real issue for the Rockies, rushing their pitching prospects. How many young pitchers have had their careers ruined using this approach? I would rather see Hill work his way back to health in the minors and develop a closer mentality in lower pressure situations. Riley Pint should be the pitcher the Rockies are giving a chance to make the bullpen, along with Jalen Beeks. And, good points there, Tracy. But I think, honestly, at this point, anybody can, with any Rockies pitcher, especially a younger guy, a prospect guy, I think any of them I think all of them are looking to prove themselves, to show what they can do, especially those recovering from injury. But, there has been some concern, certainly, for rushing players back. And, of course, the Rockies turning to a lot of these young guys and the injury concern for these young guys, especially after last year when we saw so many Rockies pitchers suffer so many serious injuries. So you can be like Tracy, who comments on just about every video. We really, really appreciate that, because it's the best way to help the show grow. It's the best way to engage with the show. Helps with the algorithms and all that good stuff when you like, you subscribe, and you comment on the video. So really, really do appreciate that, folks. Really, really do appreciate y'all tuning in. Before we dive into everything today, which is going to include a couple of my concerns, the Rockies sticking to their word a little bit. And I wanted to highlight this piece here from Rock's Pile from a little bit ago, who Tanner thinks might not be on the team here come the trade deadline or later in the season. But before we dive into everything today, got to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So in the last two spring training games for the Rockies, and I know it's spring training, it's still early, there has been a trend that I've noticed for the Rockies late in the ball games or right in the middle of it. Basically, Rockies have a lead 2-0 in this game and goes to the 5th and the 6th, and then they lose that lead. They chip back away with a run. And it's same with the Dodgers, where the bullpen just gets to that moment, just like last year, where game's close. 1-run, 2-run, tie ball game. And then nothing. Not only nothing, but the nothing that it's loud contact. It's missing your spots. That's the thing I think, especially in that Dodgers game there on Monday, where the Rockies lose to the Dodgers 9-4. This ball game, the Rockies fight their way back to the point of tying it up into the 7th, but then the 8th rolls around and there's a 5 spot there. That type of stuff cannot happen. And if you were listening to that game or watching that game, you just heard how loud the contact was, how hard they were hitting the Rockies bullpen. And that's a problem. That's when you're looking at the issues, when you're looking at the things that the Rockies got to avoid. It's innings like that. It's moments like that. It sunk them so many times last year, where a couple of walks, then a home run, walk, and then a couple of extra base hits, XYZ. That type of stuff is going to come back and creep in for the Rockies if they're not able to adjust and work on. The one bad inning is just something that is that plagues the Rockies specifically. And it starts with not hitting your spots and missing your location to allow for batters to really take advantage and hit the heck out of the ball. I mean, when you hear very loud booming swings on the radio broadcast, you know your pitcher missed their spot. You know their pitcher didn't go where they needed to go. And if you're playing tight games against the Dodgers in the regular season, you can't afford to have a 5-run eighth. How many times do we see that Rockies bullpen implode late in ball games with one bad inning? I understand they were overworked. I understand the state of the offense. I understand all of that. But when we're looking at trends and we're looking at things that concern us for the Rockies, it is this. It's the tendency still seems to be there that if Rockies pitching misses, not only are they going to miss and will walk people, but they're going to miss and get punished via big hits. A 5 spot in the 8th is bad news bears. And just, again, spring training, I understand it. But in that moment here, when the Rockies go to the bullpen at that point, and this is between it was really on one guy who struggled, but it doesn't matter. That type of situation can happen again. And I'm hoping Ponticelli has a bounce back here because he's responsible for all 5 earned runs and 6 of those hits. But that happens, and it happens quickly. It happens quickly in the game of baseball that the script will flip like that. And then you realize you got to make up 5 runs and you only got 6 outs to work with. That is a problem. When I'm looking at my early couple of concerns for the Rockies, it remains right there. That Dodgers game, and then yesterday with the Royals, those are the biggest worries. Closing the ball game, fighting off and surviving in a close ball game, beating a good team in a close ball game instead of having that classic, we let the Dodgers, we gave the Dodgers an opportunity, and what did they do next? They took advantage of it. They dominated it. They put up a 5 spot. The Rockies have to hit their spots with their philosophy, with their focus on pitching. Accuracy is key. The Rockies have to hit their spots and make sure that their pitches are deceptive enough that they are going to induce the weak contact, that they are going to be able to get out of the jams using that method. But just like in that Dodgers game, we saw the biggest concern, we saw the biggest issue, the biggest worry with that philosophy. You miss your spot, you're not bringing it, they're going to hang a 5 spot on you. They're going to have loud outs. They're going to hit a ball over the wall. That is something the Rockies have to be better with. As they're going through this spring training, you got to monitor those moments. And I know, are we going to see all these members of the Rockies bullpen this year? No, probably not. Mentality thing, though. Philosophy thing, though. That's what we're looking at. That's what we're focusing on right here in this, as we're talking about this. It's still way early in spring training. It's still February. But if we go through spring and we see this happen again and again, that's going to set the stage for it to happen in the regular season. The Rockies can't find themselves in situations in tie ball games with the Dodgers heading into the 8th and lose by 5 runs. That will happen. That'll be more likely to happen during the regular season with the talent and people that will be consistently playing for a team like the Dodgers. And that will spell doom for the Colorado Rockies. Any hope or any chance that we have of them actually of us hitting that 70-win ceiling that we've talked about here on the show is going to be in jeopardy when it comes to that stuff. So I like what I'm seeing. I like the fact that we're seeing the Rockies offense score some runs. I like that we're seeing the Rockies be, they have not been shut out yet this spring training. They've been able to go out and put up some crooked numbers, at least scoring 3 runs. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They didn't score 3 against the Diamondbacks. Have scored 3 or more runs in 5 of their 6 spring training games, which is a good thing, which is a good sign for the Rockies. But in these last 2 games that we've seen, we've seen the Rockies have opportunities that slip away through their fingers. And that's something we've seen happen in the regular season as well. So Just a couple of concerns as we continue to go through this early part of spring training, as we're continuing to see what's happening with the team. It's just something that we know can carry over these bad innings. It's that one bad inning. It's plagued me when I was a baseball player, and it has plagued the Rockies for a bit as well. Okay, I saw this article on Purple Row and really excited by it here. Our buddy Skylar Timmons has a piece on the Rockies' aggression on the base paths, and we got to talk about it coming up next here on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. But before I do that, got to tell you about some of the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered all basketball season long. Not just basketball, they got you covered for hockey. They got you covered for baseball. They got you covered for NFL futures. They got you covered for whatever you need because they are America's #1 sports book right now at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Hey, you can bet on Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets, and all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, and exclusive props. If you had Cleveland Cavaliers hitting a buzzer beater to win last night, you might have won big and got your $150 in bonus bets there at FanDuel. I love prop bets. I love fun bets. I love trying to look for the interesting and fun things in games as well. You can see all the action at FanDuel with their super easy to use app as well. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite social media pages. Well, I guess that's kind of true. And the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Best way to help the show grow is by liking, subscribing, checking out that Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Love hearing from you. Love seeing the turnout from the fans here. Y'all have been tuning in to catch up with the Rockies here at spring training. I think that proves what we've talked about. I think that it proves that the vibe is different around this team, that there is an intrigue and a level of interest around this team that it's still low. They still have a lot of work to do, but the interest is growing. People are raising their eyebrows at least a little bit more with Rockies potential, but we're here to break it all down, and we really appreciate our everydayers out there and those that make us your first listen of the day. Okay. Let's do one more pitch for you. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Okay, so I saw this on Purple Row. I saw what they've talked about, and we're talking about concerns for the Rockies in that first segment, and we've talked about this in particular before, but to see it come to life, to see it be not only on something the Rockies want to change, but at the forefront of the Rockies' philosophy so far this spring training, stealing bases. Yes. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is what the Diamondbacks' chaos ball was induced because of their speed, of their ability to steal bases. And now with the Rockies going younger, getting faster, they should and can and have so far done so. Being aggressive on the base paths is going to change games. It's going to cost the Rockies a couple, maybe a time there. A little extra aggression might cost the Rockies, but it's also going to help them. It's going to put a runner in scoring position for someone to clean it up at Coors Field. It's going to create a scoring situation when originally the Rockies didn't generate those. It's going to help generate the offense. Really, really, really love this philosophy. Let's read here from Skylar Timmons and on Purple Row. The Rockies are feeling the need for speed. I'm gonna zoom in here a little bit and just kind of focus on this. Over the years, Major League Baseball saw a dramatic decrease in stolen bases across the league. In an attempt to remedy this, MLB implemented bigger bases and pickoff limits with the hopes that would increase the rate of stolen bases in the game. After 2,486 bases were stolen in 2022, players recorded 3,503 stolen base attempts or bases in 2023, the most since 1987 and the second most in the last seasons, or in the last 100 seasons. Stolen base attempts, 1.8 per game, stolen bases, 1.4 per game, and stolen base success rate, an all-time best 80.2%, showed that speed is a major factor in the current version of the game. Let me just reread those stats here from last year. Stolen base attempts, 1.8 per game. Stolen bases, 1.4 per game, and a stolen base success rate of an all-time best of 80.2%. There's no reason that you need to be the team that's outside of those norms, outside of those averages. Maybe you can be a little higher, a little lower, but there is in no way, shape, or form that you should be well below that. Well, the Rockies, and going back to reading here, the Rockies have not exactly been a team built on speed, especially in recent memory. Since 2021, the Rockies have stolen 197 bases, the third least in all of baseball, just ahead of the San Francisco Giants and the Minnesota Twins. The team hasn't stolen 100 or more bases in a single season since 2013. They came close in 2018 with 95, but the past 3 seasons haven't been fruitful on the bases. However, the rule changes in conjunction with a new slew of players may be helping the Rockies set their sights on this neglected part of the game. 2023 marked the 12th time in Rockies history that at least 2 players had 20 or more stolen bases. As spring training gets underway, speed is already making itself evident. Entering Wednesday, the Rockies currently lead all of baseball with 12 stolen bases in just 6 games. Putting that into perspective, consider the fact that the Rockies stole 31 bases in 32 spring training games in 2023. Thus far, 11 different players have stolen a base, with Aaron Schunk leading the way with 2. The team has also been caught stealing just 3 times. There's more to dive into this and in this piece, and I don't want to read it all. So you go read Skylar's great work there. But just put that into perspective. How bad, how little they have stolen bases in the past few seasons. Looking to break 100 stolen bases. Another statistical category where the Rockies find themselves at the bottom. Can't happen anymore. And it's not going to happen anymore because this team is faster. This team is younger, and this team is going to be more aggressive on the base paths. And the reason we can feel confident in knowing that is because they're doing it already in spring training. Set that mentality now. Set that standard now. Get in that groove now. You hit a single, and you're Brenton Doyle, you're Nolan Jones, you're Ezekiel Tovar, you're anybody. I even want to see Brendan Rodgers steal his first base this year. I want to see Ryan McMahon take advantage of certain situations, get good jumps, and steal. I know speed isn't as big a part of their game as it is for those younger guys, but I don't care who you are outside of Elias Diaz. You better be ready to steal a bag. You better be ready to be aggressive on the base paths, and you better be ready to take advantage of these rules. If you know that pickoff has already been used, if you know that catcher's got a weak arm, if you know it's the backup catcher who's a little bit off in terms of the accuracy, you got to use this weapon. You got to use this part of the game. Stealing is not an afterthought anymore. Base stealing, base running, and base running aggression are a part of the 2024 game of baseball. If you don't want to be left behind, you better be active on the base paths. And man, I tell you, it's another sign of shift in philosophy for the Rockies. And we'll see if it comes to fruition. We'll see how much they stick with it. We'll see if injuries get in the way of this. There's a lot of factors that will carry over into this situation. But it's a shift in change, and it's an immediate shift. It's hey, we're 6 games in. We've already stolen 12 bags. We got 11 players on here that are trying to nab bags. I tell you, it's those little things. It's those little parts of the games that doesn't always get talked about as much that are important. When you're looking to keep building up, when you're the Rockies, You're looking for places like stolen bases, hit and runs, and things like that to make that your Coors Field secret weapon. The Coors Field hit and run. Nolan Jones is up. Brenton Doyle's on first, hit and run. Or Doyle's on the move. Jones hits in the gap, boom. Doyle's already on the move. He's scoring. It just opens up a lot of interesting offensive options for this team. And man, 11 players have attempted to steal a bag for the Rockies in 6 spring training games. That is awesome. That is awesome. Now is the time to get aggressive, to use it, to work on your craft of base stealing. And I tell you, this is something that I love that. I love hearing this. I love seeing it on the field. Well, hearing it more often than not with spring training, but that matters. The Rockies being aggressive on the base paths to start spring training and hopefully throughout matters, because I hope that sets the stage. It gets these guys ready to go. It gets in their brains, base running aggression. Let's steal bases. Let's steal runs. Let's steal momentum. Man, I tell you, when it's just a fun thing to watch. It just makes your baseball team much more engaging, much more exciting when you know that they have speed threats, when you know that a base steal is a possibility. I mean, I've talked about stealing bases a lot this offseason. And to see this be a primary focus for the Rockies so far this spring, incredibly, incredibly encouraging. I don't know. It's not going to make the Rockies, a guaranteed best team or blah, blah, blah. It just adds it adds a strength. It adds something. Instead of the Rockies neglecting what other teams are doing, they're doing it too. They're embracing it too. And that's what matters to me. That's what makes this big news and an important storyline to follow here as the Rockies go through spring. They said they wanted to steal more bases, and so far they're sticking to their word. So I got to give props to the Rocks and the Rocks coaching staff there for that so far. Now, there's going to be situations where the Rockies might get a little too aggressive. The Rockies might send some people. They're going to get cut down. That's the nature of the game when you're stealing bases. But I still think it's worth the risk. All right, folks. Let me know. Are you excited by the base stealing? Are you excited by the Rockies going on being a little bit more mobile? You can see more details. You can see a bunch of details on Purple Row. And our boy Skylar Timmons, Skylar does great work. We love Skylar over here. So if you want to get a bigger, deeper look into the Rockies who are going to steal some bases and the speed of some of these players, I highly recommend going and finishing up the piece. The Rockies are feeling the need for speed. Skylar Timmons on Purple Row. We're going to continue reading from some great people that do great work, like our friend Tanner Vogt here, who talks about Rockies players that might not be on the roster here come the trade deadline. And also, of course, let's take a look at what's going to happen here coming up in today's game. So let's do that in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about folks that help make this show possible. And we got to talk about Gametime. And I mean, I'm telling you, I love Gametime. Gametime has been and will continue to be my spot for last minute tickets. Honestly, it's how I buy tickets to most events these days anyway, because if I'm not sure that I want to go, if I'm a little, I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be, I'm not sure if I want to, what I want to pay, this, that, and the other thing, I just use Gametime because they got me covered for not only great deals on tickets, but they got me up until after an hour after the event starts. Not only that, you're going to know where you sit because they got pictures of your seats. They got flash deals, zone deals, all sorts of tickets, and they are easy to find and buy. All you got to do, tap the button and boom, your tickets are going to come. It's a 2-tap process. Super simple, super easy. Gametime's got you covered here. You can see the Gametime guarantee as well, which means you're always going to get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime's going to credit you 110% of the difference. I'm wearing my All-Star Game hat. The only reason I got to go into the All-Star Game is because I used Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk here on the Locked On Podcast Network and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Want to wind down the show here with Rocks Piles, 3 Rockies who will make their opening day roster but won't last the season, and I'm interested by this. And the names listed are a starting pitcher, Cal Quantrill or Dakota Hudson, Elias Diaz, and Brendan Rodgers. I mean, I think all of these are likely. The starting pitching one's interesting because I think the Rockies are going to be in an interesting situation here. If Feltner continues to develop, Feltner had a great, another solid outing there. Because what's really interesting with those players, with the starters, is the return of Herman. I mean, we're basically counting Antonio Senzatella out this year. I don't think the Rockies, especially after him re-injuring himself after coming back from injury, they're going to take the long road with Antonio Senzatella. I'm not going to sit here and be overly positive they trade one of these guys, but we'll see. It certainly could be it because Herman's going to come in, he's going to slot in, and then that really only leaves one spot. And if Feltner has been good, or one of these other young guys have been good as well, outperforming a Quantrill or a Hudson, that is going to make things difficult for you. That is going to make things a tough sell. As for Elias Diaz, this one I can see happening in certain situations. Rockies out of competition. Elias Diaz is continues to have a solid season. It shows that he's still a good defender, can cut down runners, and he's got that home run pop in the bat. We saw an example of that here in spring training as well. Teams will like that. Teams will be interested in catchers. I believe actually I was reading only one catcher was traded last year at the deadline. So there might not be a huge market, but solid catcher play, teams are definitely going to be interested in. And if the Rockies are confident in Romo, and they're kind of out of it, go for it. Go for the youth movement. Get a pitcher in return for Elias Diaz and see what happens. Brendan Rodgers continues to be the biggest question mark here. Are the Rockies fully confident that they can go to Amador right away? Will the Rockies be fully confident in saying we can go Amador for a half a season, for the second half of the season? I think we'll know more about that answer by the end of spring. I think we need to see how Amador goes through the spring for us to get a better understanding and a better idea of that. But part of me thinks the Rockies do really like Brendan Rodgers and want to keep him. However, if Brendan Rodgers has a successful season up until the trade deadline, he is going to be one of the most enticing Rockies to trade. And with both of those vets, with Diaz and Rodgers having their prospect backups or prospect replacements looming closer and closer, it's going to offer up an interesting conversation for the Rockies and how they handle it. But I don't know. Me personally, I'd like to see this infield of all 3 of those guys. I really think the infield could be something special this year with Rodgers in there as well. But if you believe in Amador, if you want to go young again, and the Rockies aren't winning a lot of ball games, you can stick with that youth movement and see what happens. But I don't know. That's where I'm at. I don't think any of those are all that unlikely, though. I think that they certainly could be a factor there. Let's see. Rockies Angels today. I don't have the lineups in front of me, but that's going to be coming up here, and I'm sure it's going to be another whole bunch of, here we go. Let's see. Angels lineups. Let's see if I can get a Rockies lineup here, but I don't think I see one just yet. So, but anyway, it's more spring training ball. Rockies, Angels today. I don't have much to preview on it, to be totally honest. We'll see who pitches. We'll see who plays. We'll see what the Rockies do. But hopefully they steal more bases. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. If you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs. Got you covered. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.